I did it. I swam the Dart 10K and the Wild Wye and survived. Hi, I'm Emma Stokes and this is my summary really of my Dart 10K training diary because the event's now happened. I survived, I succeeded, and I've also taken part in the second marathon that I entered, which was a week after the Dart 10K, which was the Wild Wye Swim. So I'm going to talk about the Dart 10K first. What an event. It exceeded all my expectations in every way. Mother Nature was so kind. The weather was just absolutely beautiful. Couldn't have been more perfect. It was quite a chilly morning, the morning that we were due to set off, and I was shivering even in my wetsuit when we were having our briefing. But I think that helped with the water not feeling cold. And in fact, the water wasn't cold. I think it was reported to be 17 degrees. After about 5 minutes, I completely got used to it, took my time. Probably for about the first 500 meters, I was just settling in. It was really quite busy, as you can imagine. But being in the leisurely wave, we were all just, if we bumped into one another, it was a bit of a stop and, oh gosh, sorry. I think I must have said sorry over 100 times during the whole swim, because you kind of inevitably just bump into people. And the visibility wasn't good in the water. It's quite murky. And so, before you could know that someone was in front of you, it was almost too late because you'd just spot their toes. So I couldn't believe, I just felt so ecstatic when I was swimming. I just kept thinking, I'm actually doing this. I'm doing this. I've been training all year for this and here I am. So by the time I'd kind of settled in, stopped, had a look around, got used to it, gone around a few bends. Before I knew it, the first feeding station was upon me and I was really surprised. The first 4 kilometres just flew by. Didn't feel tired at all, but I did make myself stop and I did have a drink. And that's at that point when I realised that the flow of the river was really quite fast, because I kind of whooshed into the feeding station. And then you have to really hang on, and my feet were being pulled under. So it would have been better really going around the other side of it, but I just went where I kind of flowed and just held on. So just managed to scoff a few jelly babies, had some water, said hello to a few people, and swam on quite quickly. And at that point then, after that was when the river started to open up a little bit more. And I was so grateful that there was a guy that had posted some videos in the Facebook groups, so that you could be prepared for what to come up against. And one of them was where there's like a creek that goes off to the right and you have to carry on straight by the boats. And the creek definitely wanted me to go down there, because even though I was kind of swimming in that direction, I was drifting in that way a little bit. So that did feel like a bit of a wall, and felt like I wasn't getting anywhere for a short time. The safety crew were excellent. Every time I sort of thought to myself, oh, where am I? I looked and there would be a paddleboarder right by me, sort of going that way, or just keep going, just smiley, checking you're okay. At one point I was just sculling and just having a look around, and one of them came over and went, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just having a little look, if that's all right. So, they were really, really on it with checking that everyone was okay. Fortunately, I didn't need anybody's help. And by the time I got to the second feeding station, I almost felt quite sad because I realised it was almost over. So second feeding station, I had some banana. I didn't manage to get any of the really nice flapjack that everyone was talking about either, but I managed to have plenty of water, because by the time the second feeding station came along, I could really sense the salt in my mouth, which is very alien to me. So fresh water was much appreciated. And then it was just on to the end. I think it goes to show how your brain can affect your physical, how you're feeling physically. Because I was sure at one point that if by in the next corner, I would see the Dart 10K sign and that would be it. And I was trying not to look at my watch so that I, wasn't sort of put off by distances or anything like that. But in my head, I was quite close to the end and I wasn't. So I think the last probably kilometre felt like it went on forever because I kept thinking, oh, just round this corner, that'll be the dark 10K sign, and it wasn't. And so mentally then I was prepared to finish, and so felt tired. But I think had I just not kept thinking that, I would have been much better. But anyway, I managed to do it. There were some really shallow bits towards the end. In fact, I looked up at one point, someone was walking, and then I thought, oh, maybe this is the end. And no, they were just walking because they could. But I carried on swimming, and then when you came out of the water, everyone was helping you because there was like mud like this deep. You had to like squelch through this mud. I was quite convinced I was going to face plant in front of everyone, but I didn't. And I managed to give my face a little wipe so I didn't get a ladybird for everyone to see. I did see a few because it goes like a bit brown, and that's what happens. It kind of all just sticks. It really does give you a bit of a beard. But anyway, and then, yeah, managed to find Mandy and my husband, and before I knew it was over. But the finishing village was excellent. The starting point was brilliant as well. Everything was just so beautiful and so well thought out, and the volunteers, I mean, wow, everyone was just so helpful and friendly. It was so nice to see people that I've sort of met online, if you like, and people that have been watching these videos were coming up and saying hi. So I just felt on absolute cloud nine by the time I got to the finishing village. Once I went into the warming tent to get changed because I felt quite cold suddenly when I got out. Had a big hot chocolate in my Dark 10K mug. Went and collected my new sweatshirt. Got my Dark 10K sweatshirt. Their merchandise is beautiful as well. And then we just took some photographs, sat in deck chairs, and just talked about the swim. So yeah, it was a really, really gorgeous event. And then the next morning I woke up and we went for a beautiful swim in the sea. So yeah, it was a weekend of just perfect swimming conditions. So that was the Dark 10K. Highly recommend it to anybody. And yes, it's a 10K swim, but you get a lot of help. You do get a lot of help from the flow of the river. So if you could swim 7 or 8K, you could do the Dark 10K. And I just think everyone should try and do it. It's such an iconic swim. So yeah, that's that one. And then onto the Wild Wye. Completely different event, much smaller scale. I think there was probably in total about 350 to 400 people there yesterday. And there was lots of different distances you could do. So it makes it a really accessible event. So there was a 10.5K, I think a 7, a 2 and a 1. I'm not too sure. You'd have to check. But there's a Facebook page for Wild Wye Swim, and oh my goodness, the River Wye is very different to the River Dart. Obviously, number one, it's not an estuary river, so it was completely fresh water. And it was quite wild in some ways. There was definitely a flow, even though we'd had no rain leading up to the event. So the levels were really low in places. So in some places you actually couldn't swim. You just had to kind of Superman along, and it did feel like you were flying, because when you're swimming like that, you're not using your arms or anything, and you're looking down, and all you can see is weeds. It looks like you're looking down onto the earth. So it did feel like you were flying. And there were some rapids you had to go down. So they advised you went on your back and literally just kind of floated down on your back, which was easier said than done, because it was so shallow. Your bum was just hitting on rocks. So it was really fun. And yeah, the feed stations, they needed to address the feed stations. So there was one little feed station, which was basically a few volunteers at the side of the river, and it was really shallow, so you couldn't swim to them. So you had to try and stand up and walk on these really sharp, jagged rocks and stones, and it was lethal. So I just didn't even bother going over. So went past the first feed station, and then the second feed station, again, you had to climb out of the water, and it really is precarious. And I would hate to think if someone fell, they'd really crack their head. And so I'd taken a pouch of like an energy gel in my running belt. So I just ditched both the feeding stations, had that. And I just drank quite a lot of the river, to be honest. So I didn't have a drink either. So probably could have benefited from a bit of something more substance. So that would be my only feedback for the Wild Wye Swim. And then when you get to the end, another thing they don't tell you about is you have to climb out. So the bank is like that to climb out. But it made it all part of the fun. But they put these ropes and you basically had to climb holding onto these ropes. And by the time I got to the top, I was absolutely exhausted from the swimming and then having to climb up. And I suddenly felt really dizzy and really quite disorientated. Went to walk in the wrong direction, had to be pointed to the finish. But yeah, that was excellent. Really, really good fun. And again, you know, there were sections that you didn't even really have to swim. You just whooshed, only for short sections. And by the end, I did feel like I'd swum 10 and a half. In fact, my watch clocked it as 11 and a half. So I don't know whether the GPS went weird, because I did have to stand up at one point when I tried to walk to the feeding station. Maybe that's what threw it out. But yeah, both were superb events. I'm really glad I did all the training. I'm really glad I've been on this journey. And for me, I think that's it for marathons, to be honest. Yeah, it's a big tick in the box, and I'm just too afraid to enter the Dark 10K ever again, because I don't think we'd ever get such amazing conditions, such beautiful weather. The water wasn't freezing. And I want to kind of leave that as my memory. Whereas imagine if I did it next year and it wasn't as nice weather and the water was really cold, and that would then be my memory. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave the Dark 10K there, but I am going to enter the Bantham Swoosh. I want to do some fun events next year. The Swoosh is definitely a fun event. And I'm really, really keen to do something in the Scilly Isles, because I want to do some more sea swimming, and where better? I mean, it's beautiful. And I think that I'm looking into that at the moment, but I haven't quite decided whether how I'm going to approach it. I might do something on my own. I might do something with the Scilly Isles event. But yeah, I think next year I want to mix it up a little bit, maybe do a swim run. I'm quite keen to get my running shoes on again. I'm definitely going to get back to my walking, which is one of my passions. And that's had to take a really big back seat this year, because what I will say is you do really need to put the work in, and the training can take up big sections of your weekend. So you have to be prepared to do that. And I'm really grateful that my family have just been so understanding and given me that time and space. So yeah, that's something I think I would really recommend you did if you're thinking of entering a marathon swim. That talk about it with your family and let everybody understand the commitment that's involved. And if you can get their support, all the better. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed these videos. That's my little summary. I'm still on cloud nine. It's only the day after my Wild Wye. I'm now going to hang my wetsuit up, I think, for the winter. I had considered doing some really cold swims, but I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I need to. I don't need to prove it to myself. I'm going to get the pool. I'm going to improve on my technique and my speed. I'm going to work on my fitness over the winter and get entering some fun events. And I hope to see some of you there.